Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahe, Tejasvina vadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. As Arkiri just asked me an important question, which I think I'll use to begin the session. And it's what Arjuna was going through, situational demands of the world. And he was faced with violence. He was faced with challenges and people who are not so easy to get along with, not so easy to, get through. And no matter what you say, it's just not clicking, right? So the person has still, a lot of situational things to get through. And the whole world is really just based on resolving situations after situations and, nuances after nuances. And then, they just keep on coming, because when you solve one situation, then what tends to happen is the mind will think about it and it will create 5 more out of that one single situation. And this is the nature of the mind. It tends to branch out more threads out of that one challenge or one dispute or one confrontation or one single negative experience or whatever it is. The mind just tends to get lost into that. So this means the mind that doesn't have anything to fall back on except situational situations, then it will naturally want to kind of investigate and analyze every one of these threads and branches that it creates. And this is just one time. Now you have tomorrow, something new happens, and then after tomorrow, and you just don't know. So most of the life goes into, number one, situations and dealing with them to the best of your abilities, hopefully. But according to Krishna, this is not what the end of life is. It is necessary, of course, and it cannot be denied, nor can it be downplayed, because the more one downplays it and says, no, this is not, no, my behavior is not a problem, it's nobody really minds my loud noise. Nobody really, we're all accommodated towards each other. This is very easy to, what do they call this, to condone, to condone something that is unacceptable, then is to downplay it as if it's not a big deal. And what happens is this creates more and more tension in the air. And this tension eventually bottles up and it creates this, massive kind of a, like champagne bottle, it just all comes out. And it may not come out immediately, but there is certainly a time, because the human being is fragile and no one can kind of bottle it up for far too long. A situation will present itself and it will just be so, so much pressure will be in there, like shaking a can of fizz. And then it just cannot contain itself and it just wants to come out in violence, in I'm not, willing to kind of projection, not willing to listen, unable to pay attention, labeling people, judging people, putting things into boxes, what should happen, how you should act towards me, how you shouldn't be. All of these projections just get, wallpapered over the world. And all of that's coming out of one single mind. So this mind, being fragile in nature, because it has not confronted its own situations and has not looked at it in the light of a bigger vision, which Krishna is showing us, it has no place to go than to project it onto the world. And this is very prevalent in politics today. Anyone who watches, kind of stays up to date with politics, you will know exactly what it is. In fact, I think politics, a better word for politics is psychology at a mass level. That's a much more kind of an informed way to see it, because you really see what is it when a collection of people come together, when they believe in a certain cause, and when, reinforcements come and they just have more reinforcements of that single cause, how it can perpetuate and how it can pull other innocent minds into that cause, which may not be completely true. And so it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And then you have, more than, 50 million people voting for something that is not in the best interest of everyone in the long vision. And there was once a statement that, now having said this, it said, if 50 million people say, if 50 million, that's a lot. If 50 million people say the wrong thing, it's still wrong. In fact, 50 million today is nothing. It's more like if 1 billion people say the wrong thing or follow the wrong leader or follow the wrong cause, it is still wrong. And yet, if you look at politics, what happens? Oh, you know, we've got the numbers. Did you see how many showed up at my cause? Did you see how many showed up? The other side, their numbers are nothing like mine. But if you look at deeper, who is showing up? And according to Krishna, ignorance always outweighs dharma. Adharma always outweighs dharma. In other words, adharma is always more popular than what is the right thing to do, what is the right conduct towards life. And therefore, you have all of these adharmic, right, Kauravas showing up for this huge cause. And therefore, you say, you see, we are standing as one. Therefore, we are right. And therefore, and then those who see the truth, they may sometimes be silenced, but in the long vision of Krishna, he says nothing without dharma can survive. It eventually starts to crumble. It starts to turn in itself, and it starts to crumble of itself. Every single historical moment of a dictator or the Roman Empire who thought they were just spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading, unstoppable. Where is it today? Where is the Roman Empire today? We're talking huge, powerful soldiers spreading all throughout Europe, up to Turkey, and I think Israel even too, all throughout. Where is it today? Therefore, anything that is not aligned with the natural order of the universe, something happens somehow that it just starts to crumble sooner or later. And thereby, what Krishna shows is that, you know, the only way out of this, you know, coming back and seeing more, you know, more kind of dictating and more, you know, sickness and old age and more figuring things out and more, you know, plowing through what is true, what is false, all of that. What happens eventually is you start to ask a different kind of question, and you start to see, you know, when the vision shows you that there is a much bigger order, there's a much bigger reality, and not that it's separate from this, but there's something else that I've been neglecting all of this time. And we said that this reality is your very intrinsic nature, and it is something that is invariable through and through your experiences. Everything else is coming and going in reference to regarding, you know, this instrument that's been assigned to that given standpoint, that's been assigned to this given standpoint. But the light of consciousness that lights up that instrument, thinking now, shaking the head, going, this is, you know, this is whatever it is, that instrument is being lit up by the exact same Atma as this instrument right now is being lit up. So Krishna shows us there is one invariable presence in whose presence various changes regarding every instrument are observed. From that standpoint, changes are observed. What changes? To what do these changes belong to? To the instrument right now that is listening to these words. That is called the body-mind instrument. And from this standpoint, there is also an instrument, which we give the name called Andre, who also has, you know, functioning of the mind, is, you know, having emotions and having a whole gamut of human experiences. But that which observes Andre's experience is exactly the same reality that observes Asha's experience, that observes Gautam's experience, that observes Jonathan's experience, and so on. It's exact same Sat and Chit. That means it is of existence, which was never born and which will never die. And what kind of an existence are you? You are a wherefore existence, conscious existence. So this means it is something that you can relate to right now. I didn't say that you are bugulugu. It's something that you can relate to naturally because your own experience says that I exist, I am. And what kind of an I am is it? It is a conscious I am. Therefore, Krishna right up front says, this is your true intrinsic nature, the existence upon which the experience of your body and mind is happening on right now, is being scribbled upon. The exact same existence upon which Andre's body and mind is being scribbled upon. And what observes those scribblings? It is the same I am, which is the exact same as your I am. And this I am is called Atma. Now, the question is, suppose you ask, well, so what difference does it make if I understand Atma? Having heard about Atma, as we will obviously investigate more, but what difference does it make in my life at all? Does someone want to try this?
Yeah, if I understand Atma and I understand what you're saying, that it is one common thing that is common between all of us, then there doesn't remain anything me, mine, you, yours, and everything become once, and therefore it ends samsara.
Yeah, good. So, this whole notion of this mine, my this, my that, my son, my knowledge, my house, my wife, my kids, my occupation, my this, my that. It's just sort of a very heavy experience to have all of these my's dumped onto Atma, and you have to like carry it around wherever you go, and it becomes very, very heavy. So it's not like you're now disowning, your body, disowning your kids, disowning your wife, disowning your husband. You're just saying, hey, there is a certain reality here about both of us, which truly is the real, the one which is really real. And there is something else about us which will be reprogrammed when there's a death of a body, which will, totally go out of existence into mere ashes or into the burial ground, upon death. That is what's called the incidental nature. That's just a scribble on you, that which is never leaving, never dying, never being born, remains the exact same you as you are right now. So it's not like now your body dies and suddenly the you are now different. The exact same you that you know yourself to be right now is the exact same you that continues after death. And this is understood more and more and more as we go through this, to the point where you say, hey, this body is no different to me than just another thought that I just had about what I did in my vacation last year or something. It's just another change. Yes, there is a change upon the physical death of the body, but the I that I am right now is exactly the same I when this body and mind, finally, one day it goes away. And therefore, by retaining my identity in this incidental body and mind, which is designed to change, designed to end, designed to go through pain, designed to, to respond to situations and, bring you certain responses. It's designed to do that. Now, if my I is so connected, so entwined with this body and mind, then whenever the body and mind dies, it is as though I die. Even though Krishna says, you were never born, that means there's no question of dying and you will never cease to exist. But because there's such an intimate relationship between myself, Atma, and the body and mind, then naturally death becomes a questionable thing, unpleasant thing to talk about, scary thing, uncomfortable thing, because the identity is in here. Therefore, the implications are vast. It makes the person more relaxed. They understand it's not just sort of, pseudo spirituality. Oh, we're all just going to go anyway. It's a genuine understanding that I am immovable. I am eternal, and this body will go one day, but it doesn't bother me. In fact, it is something to look forward to, because what's actually happening is a limitation is falling of who you really are. As long as there's a limitation, even for a wise person, someone says, hey, I'm wise. Okay, great. Now ask them, can you speak Spanish? Can you speak Portuguese? Can you speak Russian? Can you speak, Tamil? Can you speak all the languages in the world? No. Can you calculate mathematics? You can do these complex equations? No. Do you know how to, operate an airplane? No. Do you know why is the rose red and not blue? No. Do you know how far the Earth is from the sun? No. Do you know where is your spleen exactly in your own body? No. Do you know where are your kidneys? No. Do you know what exactly happens, when there's a cut, and how does it repair? What's the first chemicals that, what messages get sent to the brain, and what happens for that scab to form? No. Do you know how to cure yourself when you have a cold or a sick? No. What do you do then? You take your instrument to the doctor. So there's more no's than a yes. Like, what do you know? You don't know what the basics. And these basics are exactly the same for an ignorant person who is yet to discover their Atma and for a wise person. The only difference is that a wise person understands one more thing, and that is there is something about me which is invariable, which never comes and goes, and that is the real I. And it's not just information that you heard once upon a time. There was a class that told me how there's something eternal about me. It's an understanding. It's a genuine assimilated reality. It's not just information that I heard. So what happens is, at the same time, you are given this body and mind to discover your very Atma. In fact, according to the scriptures, the only purpose why your body and mind was blessed right now is to discover who you are. The only purpose. Everything else is subserving that purpose alone. But owing to the mix up and owing to a sense of limitation and people that we meet, we get sidetracked. Little by little, we get sidetracked. And what happens is pain and pleasure, which are nothing but indicators to help you, right, navigate this world and discover your nature. That's the only purpose of pain and pleasure, just indicators. What happens? Well, discover a certain chemical called a drug, and the person ingests it, and then just releases excess dopamine, and now pleasure becomes the end of life. And then relationships become the end of life. And then seeking, spiritual experiences become the end of life. Gone off track. Whether spiritual experiences or whether taking drugs, you've gone off track. It's the same thing, just the objects have changed. One's ingesting something that's illegal, the other person is just going to, whatever they're doing that's called spiritual nowadays. It's the same thing, just the objects are changing, but I have gone off track. So for example, we'll take a metaphor. It's like a wave. Suppose you are, a wave in the ocean, and you take yourself as a small wave in this vast ocean. And all you see and understand about yourself is this single individual wave. Now, what is your experience going to be like? When you look at a wave over there who's taller than you, who's, getting all of these other small, sexy waves, going towards it, and you're like totally alone. You're in a lone wave. And then you got the skillful wave that's playing the piano, and all of the, everyone's just kind of, all the waves are cheering towards that wave. And you're just there, little wave, who's heading at 100 kilometers towards the seashore, who's going to ultimately crash one day, and you will be no more. So look at this. Not only is this wave concerned about the eventuality of its ending as a form, but while it's concerned about its death, all throughout the journey, it sees all of these younger waves, fresh waves, smart waves, and then jealousy develops, and then complications develop, and all sorts of, weirdness develops throughout. So this means as long as the wave has its identity in itself as one of the many others, then it brings a whole load of psychological issues that the person has to kind of, uplift themselves with positive thinking, or it becomes all about now self-help, personal development, think positively, say good affirmations, go to a motivational seminar, say, talk about how there are so many things that you can collapse in the future. Law of attraction, give you a sense of hope. Oh, I can change my universe. I can, manifest whatever I want. Oh, this is wonderful. All of these things are given to that wave, which is heading 100 kilometers towards the end of itself. For what? And then next life, another wave gets born, right? Same thing. But in that life, it's doing the exact same thing as it's doing previously. Thinking how, oh, this is worthy of living. I'm going to, I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to be a taller wave this time. Again, whether you're a tall wave or a short wave, you are heading towards the seashore, no matter what. So what's the solution to this? What does the wave have to do now? You tell me.
The wave has to know that the aim of its being is to realize it's not a wave, it is water.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. In other words, the wave must understand through a certain methodology that yes, there is something about me that has a smallness to it, that has a limitation to it, that has a form and a shape to it. You know, I may look like a female wave. I may look like a male wave. I may look like I may have a, you know, inclinations for a professor wave, inclinations for a doctor wave, inclinations for a teacher wave, all sorts of inclinations I may have. However, all of these are just my incidental attributes given to me for one single life to work out the fact that I'm much more than this wave alone. So this means, Ashish, no, this means that this wave needs to now start to think, what is it that I share with everything else? So this means the moment the wave changes its identity from its incidental form, incidental attribute, the one that's listening right now, onto that which is common, the substance of all waves, not just itself, but also of the waves next door, the waves the past, the waves of the present, and the waves of the future, not just the present waves, but all waves, past, present, and future, is the exact same water, then the wave starts to immediately enjoy a reality that is much bigger than just waveness. Now, does the wave have to get away from itself to come in contact with the water? Does the wave have to go to Himalaya and, you know, and meditate to get in contact with the water?
No.
Does the wave have to sort of, you know, now deny all other waves and say, oh, that's their illusion and me alone am real? Does it need to do that? I'm glad you say no. You see this? If the wave calls that illusion, what is it calling an illusion?
Self.
It's calling self the illusion, because that which it's pointing to, calling how the world is illusion, the world is made out of the same substance as its very self. Does the wave have to sort of, you know, now, compete against other waves, or can it just enjoy other waves as just expressions of the one reality? That means its whole psychology changes on the mere virtue of changing its identity. It didn't have to get away from itself. It didn't have to have some experience of itself. Now, when the wave understands that it's already enjoying the final substance, which inheres in all waves, is the wave going to have an experience of the water?
No.
No. Why not?
Because that is its prime experience. I mean, it cannot have an experience over an experience.
Yeah, good. In other words, it was the water all along. It didn't gain water. You only experience something new when you gain it for the first time. But the wave was the water all along. So when it discovers it cognitively that there's something much bigger about me, it's not like it's going to experience the water. It just understands, oh, what I was experiencing as my very self, that which is constant, which was yesterday, which is today, and will be tomorrow, that I am, was the final reality. You're not gaining I am, you're just getting really clear that your I am is the very substance, the very content, which was which was true all along. Understand this. The wave will never experience the water, because that implies the water is for the first time coming onto the wave. The wave was nothing but water all along. Therefore, moksha is not some magical experience that you have. Oh, you know, now I've discovered my I am. I've discovered that I'm a awareful being. You already know that you're awareness. You already know that you're awareful, that you're conscious every single day. How can you have an experience from that? In fact, the only experience that you're going to have is belonging to the incidental mind, because your mind is designed to generate experiences when it discovers something new. If I discover, oh, look, there's treasure over there, that treasure, right? The mind's going to naturally generate some experience about it, but that too is going to be nothing but a scribble that's not going to be there tomorrow. But what will be there tomorrow? The light of consciousness, which is lighting up the mind tomorrow, which was the same light of consciousness lighting up the mind right now. Nothing has changed. Is there any distance between the wave and the water? No. What distance? The wave is nothing but the water. The water is obtaining as a wave. What distance? Do I have to like look somewhere deeper in myself to come in contact with myself as the awareful being? Who's aware right now? Who's desiring meditation? Who's aware right now? I am. I am. In the meditation, when the mind's doing all sorts of fancy tricks into contacting subtle realities and going to samadhis, who's still aware? The exact same I am that was aware in the frustrated mind who's just, wanting to meditate so badly. The exact same self is there all along. So in this way, nothing gets added onto you. You just discover that this ordinary I amness, ordinary self that you have already known yourself to be since a long time ago, it is all there is to it. There's nothing more than just ordinary I am. Okay, Bao.
It's created by oneself. So as long as there is a distance of ignorance,
the
distance exists.
Exactly. So what Bao is saying is a very good point. When I asked the question, is there a distance between the wave and the water? And you said no. Now, in like real life, it seems like there's a distance. This is why there's a spiritual search. Think about it. Why is the person going on a spiritual search unless I'm looking for something, thinking that I don't already have it right now? That's what a spiritual search implies. That means I want someone to tell me something, to show me something, to give me something that I don't have right now. Therefore, I have to go and search. So the only distance there is a cognitive distance. The wave was never separate from what it always was all along, from the water. But in the stage of ignorance, that separation between the wave and the water, that which it was looking for, that was owing to its own ignorance that it is not experiencing the water, owing to its own notion that what I'm experiencing is something different from the water, that what I'm looking for is something different from what I am right now, that when I gain the water, it will be something, it will feel different than I am right now.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, the I am is the truth, the essence. I'm just trying to say it in my own words.
Go ahead.
And the personality, is that the wave? From the I am. So the personality, the character, the conditioning, the experiences is just all the wave. From that I amness.
For example, the wave's job, whether you want to put a wave, a body, or your personality, or your thought, or your emotion, it doesn't really matter, or your memory, because all of them are going to, like a wave, they're going to change forms. And that's how the experience is of a human being. There's forms changes, there's experience change. But all throughout, whether the wave looks really, really tall, or whether it's a nobody, like a smallest wave and nobody even sees it, the entirety of it, no matter where you look in that wave, it's always going to be H2O. The H2O will never change. And by the presence of H2O, it lights up the shape of that wave. That's why your personality is always aware. That's why your personality is always lit up. Because your personality is like a wave, nothing but modification of that wave, but what brings it to light, what awares it, what makes it conscious is the very H2O, is your very awareness, your very you, your very self that you know yourself to be all along. So all of the modifications, it's not like they're different, like a different existence. It's not like a wave is a different existence from the water. Is it? Is a wave a different existence from the water?
No.
Okay, I'm glad you say no. Do you know, okay, why is the wave not a different existence from the water?
It's not, but the distance is the distance of knowledge, the distance of understanding, and the distance of experience makes the wave different than the water. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, good, Lena. I know what you're saying now. So I was bringing slightly a different context. Maybe I'll analyze this a little bit later when we go to different teaching. What I wanted to show is that when I say wave over there, is there any difference between that wave and water?
No.
No,
For us,
but
no.
also yes.
Yes.
No, in terms of the reality of, because the reality, the water, that wave is not the water, but where is the yes? Where is the difference?
Name and form.
Name and form. In other words, that existence, that water is obtaining, seemingly obtaining as different shapes. But is it actually changing into that wave? Considering that wherever you look in that wave, it's the exact same H2O as anywhere else. No, it's not changing at all. It remains itself as it always is, H2O. Even though from a certain standpoint, it's able to obtain as a personality, a tummy personality, a Pankaj personality, there is one commonality throughout it, which is I am, which is now in this metaphor equated to the water. And that I am is what never changes. It's invariable. It survives the changes upon which, which are constantly molding and shaping themselves. But what is never molding and shaping? That which that wave is made of. And how is that which never molds and shapes, how is that known to you right now?
H2O, right?
How is it known to you right now? I am.
Yeah.
Self-evident I exist. I'm conscious. That's it. So yes, there is a difference, but also there is no difference. Pankaj.
Good morning. I have a question. Does the wave have a degree of freedom that it can travel in any other direction? It can do something. It can create something. It has a degree of freedom, as we see in life. Every individual does something, achieves something, but a wave in ocean can do nothing on its own.
Yeah, good. So excellent.
Difference.
Yeah, so what Pankaj is doing now is reminding us that every example is meant to be conveyed in a certain context. The moment you use that example in your own way, right? Like, what about free will now? That example breaks down. So every example from now on that I say, listen, is going to have a limitation. And the intention of the example is to show you a certain reality. Now, the moment you try to bring that example to something else, like what about the waves, a freedom to choose because it's just a wave, that example no longer applies. So therefore, when we use examples, we meant to use it for a certain context. Now, when Pankaj says, what about, the waves, free will, you cannot use the wave ocean in this example. Now I have to use a different kind of a metaphor. I have to say that there is a certain, a reality called free will, which is endowed to you as an individual who can make a choice, right? What is it that you want to learn? What is it that you want to eat? When do you want to eat? When do you want to, maybe you want to go to the toilet, but then, by your willpower, you say, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to go to the toilet because this is too important to listen to. This is all that power of choice, that the wave can remain in one place. And this is the endowment given to us as those who are got a slightly more, not a slight, but a lot more sophisticated instrument than to a cow. The cow cannot say, I'm just going to not eat grass today. I've just been eating this grass. It's just green. It's the same old stuff I ate yesterday. I'm just going to take a break from eating grass. The cow can't do that, not even for one day, even though it's going to survive if it doesn't eat grass, but it's just programmed to eat grass every single day. So it cannot intercept its innate program of hunger and say, no, I choose not to eat. Whereas a human being can't do that.
That was really cool. Thank you. I just want to check my understanding of something there, because something hit me a little bit further than it had previously, it seems. So this, and some of it comes down to semantics, the way we use words that you touched on. The word experience, in my world experience has often been used to direct one towards consciousness. So when you said earlier, can't gain the experience, it already is.
Yeah.
My brain just went click, and I know it's not a big thing, but actually it is actually a big thing, because it makes a whole bunch of sense.
It does.
Why the clarity, because we're still going to use experience as a word, because we're using words and we're humans with a mouse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this notion of consciousness experiencing itself, even that might exist in some other context or in some other way of explaining something, but tone it right down to the actuality of it. I'm just testing my understanding of what you said. To hone it down to the actuality of it, even that is known as extra words per se. Do you know? I don't have to give that any more thought.
Yeah.
So the only word then that we have is I am. As you know, my brain still wants a word to give that.
Yeah, this is very easy answerable from Kena Upanishad. It says that your I am is not something that can be heard or seen or tasted or experienced, but the presence because of which tasting is tasted, or sound is heard, or a thought is known to take place. It is not an object that can be sort of quantified or grasped, like, aha, I've grasped it, like an experience. Aha, it's there in front of me. So when I use the word experience, what I mean is it wasn't there just a moment ago, and now it's suddenly shown up for the first time. In that sense, for the first time, I mean experience. But there is something about you which was never born. So therefore, it cannot be something that has shown up for the first time. And that which is not shown up for the first time is the presence which is going to remain when this experience goes away. Now, whatever you want to call that presence, Krishna calls that Atma, or your existence awareness. Therefore, therefore, Atma cannot be known as any one particular object or something that you can hear, like a special conch sound or some rosemary smell, or some light in the forehead, or some special feeling at the Sahasrara chakra. It's not something that will come for the first time. It is the presence because of which all sorts of phenomena are recognized. All sorts of phenomena are known to be taking place. Now, according to Krishna, that which knows phenomena or experiences to be taking place is not because of the mind or the body, it's because of you, that which was never born, nor will it ever die. And that you is exactly the same as Krishna's you. It's exactly the same, one existence, one awareness. Sharmali?
So I guess if it can't ever be experienced and felt and known, then like when we're trying to grasp and take in this knowledge and understand everything, like what's trying to know it then? If it's something that can't be known, I'm just a little confused on that concept.
Again, so you see, that which knows that the mind's trying to know it, that is the self. So there's a frustrated mind, right, who's trying to grasp it, but you find it's like soap, right? Every time you grasp it, it just slips right out. You can't grasp it. But that because of which there is a frustrated person going, I can't grasp it, can't grasp it, can't grasp it. Who knows about that frustrated person? Whatever you want to call it, that is the self. That is you, the real you. So this means that, again, you see how the mind wants to, as it's been doing since childhood, convert everything into an object to grasp. It's so used to doing this. The moment we introduce that which cannot be grasped, it goes, yeah, but what do you mean? If I can't grasp it, then what's the point of talking about it? Because I will never be able to grasp it. So Vedanta has to keep on talking and talking and talking until your mind's able to, kind of understand the mind's, changing and molding and shaping and, going 60,000 changes per day. But there is something about you that is constant. And Vedanta wants to show you what is that constant presence, which never leaves and is exactly the same as it was yesterday. Yesterday, there's a person called Sharmili, and that Sharmili was going through a very different phenomena than Sharmili in today. And Sharmili of tomorrow is going to be going through a very different phenomena and experiences than Sharmili of today and Sharmili of yesterday. But there is, so in other words, it's three different people altogether. It's three different times. But there is something about, from the standpoint of Sharmili, that doesn't feel like it has changed at all. Now, whatever that is, Krishna says it is I am.
Right. No, yeah. It's just, I keep getting stuck because the instrument that we're using, which is our mind, is just not even capable of understanding this, right? Like your mind can't really ever catch this because it's not anything to catch per se, right? It's
careful now. I know I've heard the statement before, the mind can't grasp it, but at the same time, the mind is required to know it. And this is kind of like a paradox. What do you mean? The mind can't grasp it, and yet the mind is required to know it. Well, the mind cannot grasp it as an object, because that's how the mind works, by grasping things as an object. It wants to feel it as an experience, an intuition, a sensation, or it wants to see it, it wants to, intuit into it, it wants to, imagine it or something. That's the nature of the mind. However, when it comes to understanding your real self, that which never comes and goes, which cannot be grasped, then it's a different kind of a methodology. You remove those notions which keep turning you, that which lights up the experiences, into an object. That's what moksha is. The cessation of this need to turn I am into something that can be grasped. In other words, moksha, liberation, is not something that I've gained or introduced into my mind. I haven't introduced a concept. I have removed concepts from my mind. What kind of concepts? Those concepts, ideas that will constantly saying, hey, Mr. or Mrs., that which you want to grasp, it's not here right now, but I can't grasp it. It's an object. It has to be grasped. It has to be grasped. It has to be grasped. Look at this. Hear the language. It has to be grasped. No. It has to. I haven't grasped it yet. I haven't grasped it yet. What is lighting up that entire conversation of the frustrated mind trying to grasp it? I haven't grasped it yet. I haven't. I'm failing. Oh no, I can't do it. I can't do it. What knows about this whole person right now? I can't do it. I can't do it. I am. Ashish?
Yeah, Andre. So when you say that the I am is always present and the mind is saying I can't grasp it, but I am knows that you can't grasp it, then when it finally does grasp, then is it just like an object, thought object? Because the I am is only it just lights up everything. So that knowledge that will happen is also an object, right? And I am will just experience it. I mean, in that sense, like I am will not change. It still remains the same. It's just an object which will be in your mind, which you will probably know or you will drop, as you were saying.
Yeah. So before the instrument called Ashish asked that question, there was a presence, and then in that presence arose a thought in an instrument called Ashish. And then that thought was verbalized to this instrument called Andre. And while Andre instrument is speaking to Ashish instrument right now, and Ashish instrument is listening to these words, all throughout this conversation, there is an underlying presence in whose presence this entire conversation of words, of word exchange, is known to be taking place right now. And when this instrument stops answering Ashish's question, then Ashish is going to say, yeah, I'm happy with the answer. I'm not happy with the answer. But all throughout, there will be an equal presence of I amness throughout the entire thing. So this means nothing has to be done to grasp the I am, but the mere virtue of the experience taking place, of the experience known to be taking place, implies the presence of that which is lighting it up. The mere presence of the objects being lit up in a dark room. Do I have to grasp the light? Listen to the question. Do I have to grasp the light? Suppose the light is shining in a dark room and it's lighting up a phone, a table, and a chair. Do I have to know what the light is? When all I can do is just go, hey, the mere fact that the chair is seen, that the table is seen, that the phone is seen, means there is a presence of that which makes it see. And what is that presence? I am. You see? So this means you don't have to grasp I am, but the mere presence of different thoughts, different things that are seen in your mind, different sensations that are seen in your emoting mechanism, that are felt in your emoting mechanism. By the mere fact that they are lit up, whatever that is that you want to call it, that is, according to Krishna, self. And it is not the mind or the body, it is what is invariable and it never ceases.
Yeah, what Krishna was saying about the fact that we're not born and we don't die, does that equate experientially to my experience where I don't remember being born and I can't imagine dying? And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels like that.
Yeah, of course. All right. So what you're mentioning now is, see, when there is a birth, right, you get born as a jiva. And this is like the next verse, verse 13. And the jiva doesn't remember being born because the jiva, has this sort of a erasure. Their mind is reprogrammed. And for that reason, right, you're not supposed to remember just such a traumatic experience of being inside such a lovely, cozy, warm place called the mother's womb. And suddenly you see a glimpse of light. And you have to now push your way through this tunnel, a long tunnel that takes forever. And the more closer you get, it's like a brand new universe. And then suddenly you have to now take your first breath. And this becomes such a traumatic experience. And we all as parents celebrate, oh, a new child is coming to the world. That child just went through the most traumatic experience of its entire life. It's no different than death. Death is just, in fact, death is more pleasing than birth. So thank God we don't remember pushing ourselves through the tunnel, which takes forever. And then now you have to, use your lungs for the first time. And now you don't even know, who you are, what you're not, who's this person that's holding me. You just learn that it's some mother and you go, it's my mother. And you're totally helpless. And I have to crawl. You can't even walk, nothing. So thank God that we don't remember this traumatic experience. Now, in this sense, that body was born. Sure, that body was a fetus. It was an enzyme. It was not an enzyme. It was an embryo once upon a time, enzyme. And it came with a mind. And the mind is not able to remember because the brain is still developing. In other words, you need a sophisticated brain to accommodate your mind. If the brain is very little, 1 year old, and yet the mind, because remember, the mind has been traveling for eons, just traveling body to body to body to body. So when the mind is associated to a little brain, that mind is not able to function yet. So this means you have to wait for this instrument to start to grow, for its brain to have enough neurons to develop, for its eyes to open, and then it can accommodate the functioning of the mind to start working through it. And then you start to develop slowly the sense of I am, and sense of individuality, a sense of who I am and who I'm not. So this takes a development, a process. And now when you die, what actually dies is, the instrument will die. And when an ignorant person dies, is their mind gets reprogrammed. That means, you erasure of whatever has happened previously so that you can, start a fresh new life. That's why nobody here remembers what happened in the previous, whoever your parents were, whatever people did to you, to that traveler, to that jiva. You don't remember any of that because every life you're given a new chance to work out your stuff and recognize your nature. If I was carrying all of that burden from those people who have hurt me and who I've loved, then you would be too preoccupied with that stuff. It would be pulling you down. Therefore, you get a new chance every time.
Sure, but I just can't imagine not being. So the idea that I don't remember being born, and I know intellectually this body is going to drop off, but I can't imagine dying. So the idea of not being is just, it doesn't compute.
Yeah, it seems like you're already in touch with something there, you know, in touch with, I mean, we're all in touch with it one way or the other.
Sure.
It's like, I can't even imagine not existing. So there's something about us that is kind of connecting with the fact that there is something about me. I may not be totally clear with it at the beginning. That's fine. But there's something about me that is just, you know, it's fine. It doesn't die. And it's really interesting. I saw shows of those who are like 90 years old and they're in the hospital and they were interviewed and they were asked, what do you think about dying? And, you know, most of them, it's kind of a 50-50. They say, you know, I've just come to accept this is part of life. So this switch that happens that just makes it okay. Like, yeah, it's time to go. So this means that there's some comfort that, hey, I'm not going to go, but something else will go. Otherwise, the person will be just totally terrified of dying. But I tell you, in those moments, you know, closer to death, and I also watched survivors of a plane crash. It was a 747, and it kind of landed, had a bad landing. And it was definitive that the plane is going to crash. But it didn't. 100 people died, but those who were alive, they told the story. And they said, you know, we're ordinary people, but the moment we realized that this plane is going to crash, something in us as a couple switched and we just accepted, yep, we're going to die. Just, it was so effortless. We were always afraid of dying. We were afraid of going. And in that moment, instant, you know we had business and parents and children. We just said, you know what, we're going to die. It was so easy to accept that. So in us, there's something that's connecting with our eternity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but it's a good point. I cannot imagine not existing. Greg?
Andre, just wanted to mention something.
Yeah. Just
going back to when you said we require the mind to actually recognize the self. So basically it's like...
Stop. We require the mind to recognize the self. In the presence of the self, the mind is recognized.
Yeah. So is it similar to the fact that we really can't see ourselves, like in the physical form, until we look at a mirror? The mirror reflects. No matter what somebody tells us what we look like, we cannot see the full picture. Yeah. So the mirror reflection is the one that actually shows us what we look like. So is it similar to that? The mind is the instrument that we use to reflect.
Not just the mind, you need a certain mirror, that's called the Upanishads, a certain methodology. When it's put inside your mind, as though like a mirror, you, Atma, are able to see yourself.
Yeah.
You need the right kind of methodology, a kind of method to recognize yourself. So we call the Upanishads a mirror for the self.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Good point, yeah.
May I?
Hold on, Greg has his hand up.
Yeah, so Andre, I was wondering why is this experience so painful, like even coming into this world? Why is it so traumatic? Why does nature have it set up that way?
I mean, you know, it's like asking why is, you know, when I cut myself, why is it painful? It is, it's a change. It's a big sudden change that is so comfortable and warm. And now you go into this cold, you know, environment with air conditioning. And so in that reference, because I was so comfortable in that moment, in that sense, it's, you know, traumatic. And how do you prove this? Well, the baby's going to cry, you know, it's going to, you know, cry all the time, no matter what, you know, you do for it. It's just going to probably, you know, complain, complaining baby, right? So,
right.
So that's just on a level of the physical, there's a huge change.
But all throughout life, it seems like until we come to this place in our life, right, where we're discovering our true self, is nature then pushing us through pain of not knowing who we are in order for us to evolve and understand our true nature?
Yeah, very good point.
That's why there's so much pressure and confusion and pain and...
Yeah, excellent. Good, very good point. So what Greg is saying is that, see, even your attitude towards, as we will see, Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha in verse 14, even your experience towards cold and hot, that means any kind of a physical discomfort, or even your experience towards sukha dukkha, any kind of psychological discomfort, all of that is, it's discomfort. It's not just discomfort, it's also comfort. It's always a dualistic experience, right? Comfort, discomfort, cold, hot, and anything in between, warm and so on. So all of that, depending on how you look at it, it can serve as the greatest propeller of discovering of who you are, or it can serve as just, becoming a complaining person, how things are, I'm aging and I can't remember anymore, and I'm old and I'm falling down and this is too late. I should have started earlier. So it really depends how you, again, you're given this capacity to use your free will, as Pankaj has brought out, to think about what pain really means. Now, as I mentioned in verse 14, a great attitude for any kind of discomfort is to refine your relationship towards what it means. And for example, it's a teacher, it's a lovely teacher, to show me how do I actually, relate to reality? How does a wave relate to another wave? Now that it knows that the whole thing is water, right? Now, there's an actual transformation that happens in reference to how it deals with the other waves. It's not just now, oh, you over there, I can do whatever I want with you, because whatever I do with you, whatever I want to do with you, I'm doing it onto myself. So what happens is, pain can serve to push you forward because you're not comfortable. And as long as I'm not comfortable, I will look for a solution. I look for a solution. And the human being is designed that we cannot stop until we find a solution. This is why those in a spiritual world, even if they've been kind of disappointed with, in the 1970s, you had all sorts of stuff happening in the spiritual world, and abuse and, guru abuse and so on. I don't know who these people are, but, I heard a lot of this stuff. So, and you got 30, 40 years of spiritual search, and the person still hasn't given up. Even if they've been so disappointed and gotten through so much work, there's still something pushing me forward. I am unable to stop. This is the beauty of being born on earth. So this means pain can actually be used as your greatest force for change. If you see it in the light of, motivating me to finish my work. It's motivating me to finish what I came here since beginningless time. I've been given one more dot in this vast, infinite scope of time. One more dot, one more little glimmer of light, which I am now, right now, as a human being. And that glimmer of light is shining, illuminating my mind and saying, hey, you're offered all of the tools. You're offered the free will, the teachers, the friends, the internet, the books. Here it is, my dear child. Use it to finish your work, which you are meant to finish once and for all, and find home. Find home once and for all. You've already done it all. You've already been a king, a queen, a child, this and that. You have played every single role you can possibly imagine. A warrior, a princess. You have done it all. One more life. Do you want to repeat it? Or do you want to sit down and do the real work? And then in one life, like Arjuna says, I want to do the real work. I want to finish my work once and for all. Therefore, pain is a great accelerator of our change. Okay, Pankaj had his hand up. Unmute. Unmute.
Can we call pain as something for to help us in the process of evolution? Pain is a condition for evolution. Otherwise, that is a requirement of pain existing. Otherwise, pain need not have existed in this world.
If we were right now in heaven and we were just listening to divine celestial music and eating divine food and able to float up, because in heaven, apparently you don't have such a heavy body, so you're much more free, and you can manifest anything you want for yourself. And so if you had this potential, the person, I tell you, for the most part, would be just lost in bliss. lost in more forms after forms after forms. That means eventually the person will come to realize there's a limitation here. And what I'm ultimately seeking is freedom from all limitation. This is still happening in space and time. This is going to end. This is going to change. So eventually the person comes back to Earth, and the Earth is specifically designed to be a mixture of pain and pleasure. Not one person, I tell you, has it all good in this life. No matter who they look like, what they are, who they are, what title they carry, not one person has it easy in this life. That is just a fact. No matter what face you want to put up, everyone's got their fair share of sufferings. And joys, of course. And the moment you understand this fair share of suffering is not here to make me a complaining, miserable, negative little worm, but it is to empower me to, to come out of my shell, like metamorphosizing, like a butterfly, to come out and say, dear Lord, thank you for sending me, life as it already is right now. There's no question of being angry at God anymore, because it's just there to push you forward and just do your work. Even Krishna, Avatara, and Rama didn't have it easy. Hey, Krishna was born. Before he was born, his uncle Kansa wanted to kill him. And then he's born in the dungeon. And then he has to, kind of cross the river and go to his foster parents. Rama, his wife gets kidnapped. And then he gets exiled to the forest from a comfortable kingdom. Where's a question of total comfort here? It's a utopian dream. Okay? But at the same time, right, no matter what happens, as long as I see pain and discomfort as a chance to compose myself, to re-look at my responses, to see what kind of a person do I want to be in this world, to bring the order of Ishvara into my life, to redefine myself as a relative person, but also to see my, as Atma, connection to everything else. Every single time pain or discomfort comes, you have a chance to totally redefine who you are, how you look at yourself, and to minimize this complaining, judgmental, labeling person who constantly has to put everything into boxes, how things should be and how things shouldn't be, and it's got to be my way. Prayer. Oh Lord Shiva, please, I feel helpless right now in this moment. There's a complaining mind, a mind that wants to just label things, label people, label him, label her. Please help me to remove this pattern of mind that's just bothering me all the time, because I find myself helpless. If I could have done it myself, I would have done it a long time ago. But here I am, 50, 40, 50, 50, 60 years later, still the pattern of complaining, the pattern of wanting more, of wanting it my way, of having to put things into little boxes, this pattern still keeps playing. Oh Lord, please help me to remove this pattern of mine. Taking initiative. That's the first step. Just taking initiative to acknowledge your helplessness and then to ask Ishvara for your help, for the help. Because if you could have done it yourself, everyone would have done it by now. But we all know from experience, there is no button to press. I can't just press a button and suddenly the complaining person falls away. It doesn't happen. If there was a button, we all would have pressed it by now, wouldn't we? Yeah, we all would have pressed it. But there is no buttons. Therefore, the work is to redefine what it means to experience a challenge. When a challenge comes, a confrontation comes, a disagreement comes with whomever it is, that is your golden moment to redefine yourself. What's bothering me? Where am I coming from? Am I coming from my own kind of, my own little bubbles? And what is my intention behind my action? These are questions to ask ourselves before we engage. Therefore, it's an attitude shift. Pain, all it requires is an attitude shift. We say there's no pain, no gain. What that really means is that no pain, no learning. Much easier to go and watch a Netflix right now, right? A good movie, immerse yourself. So it's kind of a little bit painful to sit here for 1.5 hours and hopefully for the next couple of years. But the immensity of benefit is huge. It's just huge, enormous.
The last 15 minutes, I was reminded of the famous analogy from the, I forget which Upanishad, the two birds, one bird sitting on the lower branch and the golden bird sitting on the highest branch, and the illusion that confuses the duality.
Yeah, so
am I right? Am I right?
It's a nice analogy. So it's an analogy you can use in so many ways. But there's two birds, and one of them is just kind of observing. Observe. Of course, it's also doing what it has to do. It's not just observing. It's not like a wise person just sits there observing. You have to still eat and participate in this world. So, but understands that, sees other birds just eating fruits and, consuming those seeds. And, when the fruit gets finished, then what? I go into the next fruit and I consume that one. And every bird, right, has a certain attraction for a different kind of fruit. Some birds, believe it or not, like stale fruits. They like bitter fruits. Others like really sweet fruits. Others like fruits that give you sweetness and remind you of your connection to Ishvara. Other fruits totally disconnect you, disconnect you like fruit of some violent movie, right? Violent, like we're all just here one against the other. So they're all kind of fruits. Everyone's eating different fruit, but eventually the bird changes the kind of fruit that it eats according to what it understands about my purpose of life and what is to be done in this tree. And as it understands its purpose of life, it starts to change the branches that it goes onto. And slowly, slowly, it gets onto a higher branch, and it eventually can kind of see that bird on top, that bird that already went through the whole journey of climbing up to the branches. And it goes, "Hey, bird, what's this?" And the bird says, I'm here teaching the Upanishads. What's the Upanishads, Mr. Bird? Well, Upanishads will show you how to, discover your intrinsic nature. And slowly, slowly, the bird starts to now consume a different kind of fruit called the Upanishads. So it's a journey for all of our jivas to, slowly, slowly go through. So this means I cannot force any bird to stop eating its fruit, because the more I do, the more conflict will come. It's still busy eating its fruit. That's the stage of life it's undergoing. That's why you cannot change people. You have some control, some relative influence, but not as much influence as you like to believe. The bird has to finish consuming its fruits, and then eventually it sees there's nothing there. And then it goes on to the next fruit, and you go, "Oh God, I went through this. I already went through this." And you're watching the closest bird to you eating the same fruits you already ate a long time ago, and it's not going to reap any results, but you can't do anything about it. So all you can do is just accommodate. I'm just going to be there holding the space for you, but I know where it's all going. But the more I try to convince you to go and make a quantum jump, the more the bird will stay exactly where it is, out of mere rebelliousness or mere kind of no, this is where I'm supposed to be. But it's all going towards the final bird. So this is the journey of a jiva. And therefore, now one more example I want to show is, suppose that a cup is born. Look at this. Space, okay? And now suddenly, whoop, a cup is born. And now the cup is born in space. So the space was already there all along. It was accommodating. It was giving chance for a cup to come. And now that a cup has come, suddenly you have what we call cup. I'll call it, I know it's a glass, but I'll call it cup space. And now we have total space. But is now cup space different from total space? Is it different?
No.
So then why do we call it cup space then?
Because of the boundary.
Yeah, because of the boundaries. So when I say cup space, what I really mean is that cup space is regarding the presence of some boundaries that came for the first time ever. They were not at all here, and now they come. Now, because the boundaries of the cup has suddenly shown up, what happens is now there is a, like, as though a separation between this space and that space. But that as though separation is only because of the boundaries of the walls of this cup. Now, when a new cup gets produced, has it separated the total space and the space inside? Is it like two different spaces now?
No.
Suppose you say there's two different spaces. Okay, so this means that, look at this. I'm now going to I'm going to scoop up space. I'm going to now take space away. So just keep your moment, like, focus right here. I'm going to take this space away. And now right here in this, where the glass was, there should not be any space. So this means this place right here should not accommodate anything else. But let's see if that's really true. I'm going to bring AirPods. Oh, look, the space is still accommodating the AirPods. So this means I have not hijacked the space. It only seemed like I hijacked the space, right? Because there is, the walls, right? The walls of the cup. Now, when this cup breaks, does the space merge with, does the space merge? Does this cup space merge with the total space when this cup breaks?
No.
No, because there was never any separation to begin with. So there's no merger to start with. Now, what happens is that while this cup exists, then because it seems like the space, which we can equate to Atma, it seems like this space is now different to this space of another cup over there. So my Atma is now different to your Atma, right? But it only seems like that because there are two different cups. But if this, right, cup breaks and this cup breaks, then whatever space was inside both of them, there is no real difference at all. But the difference was owing to the cup alone. So this means that while alive, there is a sense that I am separate from the rest over there. In reality, space is indivisible. It's everywhere. But it only seems confined because of the presence of, we can call this the body, right? When the body gets born for the first time, then in reference to the body, it seems like I'm only over here and I'm not over there. And now I'm only over here and I'm not over there. But in reality, you are actually, as space, everywhere. Remember, I'm not saying that space is consciousness. I'm just saying, space is like consciousness. So in other words, right, the space was indivisible to begin with. It was accommodating all along the presence of the cup. And when the cup breaks, the space doesn't have a real merger. The space remains exactly as it always was, the accommodator of all things, minus the cup. So this means when the wise person's body finally drops, what happens is the cup breaks. And now where am I? I am everywhere. I was everywhere all along. It's not like, right? So what's the difference between an ignorant cup and a wise cup? What's the difference? What does a wise cup understand that the ignorant cup does not understand?
The wise cup doesn't recognize himself to be a cup at first place. So he realizes that his identification with the cup is illusionary, and the unwise cup keeps identifying with body, mind, and intellect of the body, and therefore identification with the boundaries.
I think the cup doesn't understand the space, that the space connects them to all the other cups.
Yeah, exactly. And the space is that which lights up the experience of this cup, and the space is that which lights up the experience of this cup. So suppose this is a female cup or a male cup. This is a beggar or a CEO cup. So the ignorant cup, it takes its I am, right? We can say it's a space. It takes its I am to be confined just here or just here. So as the cup is walking in this world, who's walking? who's as though walking. I am is walking. I am is walking. But when we have a wise cup, also it is walking, right? The body is walking, but it understands that it's not I, which is all pervasive, that's walking. What's walking in me? My body, mind, instrument is walking in me, the total space. It only seems like I am walking because the presence of this cup. Now, careful here. It's not like the wise person is going to experience themselves everywhere, because we often have this notion that, you know, a jnani, a wise person, will sort of, you know, go, oh, I'm everywhere. This notion has to leave. As long as there is cup, as long as it's alive, as long as it's breathing, there will be an experience of, sense of, I am here and not over there. Whether you're a wise cup or an unwise cup, the experience is exactly the same. I am here, I am not over there. But what the wise cup understands is that even though, right, I am here, cognitively I understand that I'm actually the one self in whose presence all these different cups are doing what they're doing. Therefore, it is a cognitive understanding, not an experiential understanding, not like something that you're experiencing, because the space is just that which accommodates experiences. Space in whose presence experiences take place. Space, right, compared here to consciousness, is that which lights up the experience of the cup walking. That's why you say, in the presence of I am, there is a person called Greg walking. In the presence of I am, there is a person, a body-mind instrument called Ricky, listening.
So does that mean reincarnation is not, it's like there is no individual consciousness in the reincarnation?
Yeah, there is no individual consciousness. It's one consciousness. It seems individual owing to the boundaries of the mind, boundaries of the cup.
Right.
Until I remove my ignorance that I am as good as this much, I am as good as the space inside this cup. As long as that remains true, then when the mind goes, right, it's as though I go. When the body goes, it's as though I go. But I'm never gone, because consciousness is that which is all pervasive, even now.
So that means what is in the reincarnation then?
Yeah, incarnation, what happens is the mind gets born. The mind gets reprogrammed. So this is called the jiva. Next verse, 13. So what gets reincarnated, what gets born again, what gets taken a new body is what's called a jiva. And this is the next verse.
I'd like to go back a little bit, but what you've been just talking about kind of touches on it as well, which is the problem that we came up at the end of last week, where the Sachit experiences through us. So basically, my understanding, or what I think, okay, so Leo is looking at this screen, and it's Leo's mind that's experiencing the screen. But Leo only experiences the screen because Atma is behind Leo.
Yeah.
But Atma is not actually experiencing the screen through Leo, is it?
Atma is experiencing the screen through Leo. That means Atma experiences the world. You went mute again. Atma experiences the world through your mind. You need a mind for Atma to experience, to know about things. You need an instrument.
Okay, but does that happen? If that's the case, is it only experiencing through Leo, but not through Andre, through Dave, through Rani? Or is it experiencing the whole, like,
yeah, it's experiencing.
Does it experience the whole thing at all times?
Yeah,
so every excruciating birth, it is experiencing right now.
Yeah, but the excruciating bits do not belong to it. In the presence of it, the excruciating pain and the joys are, being experienced to the person, not to I am. So therefore, the cognitive understanding is whatever pain comes, whatever joys come, they do not belong to me. They belong to the person called Andre.
So there's a separation.
It's a cognitive understanding, a cognitive separation, just like the not actual, because wave and the wave can fall and hurt itself, right? But that which lights up the wave being, seemingly hurt is the water. So in that same way, consciousness lights up the experience of all of the pains and the joys that the Leo person is going through. And not only is it being done from Leo's standpoint, it's done from all of our standpoints. So it's one light that lights up different minds, different bodies going through different incidental changes.
So it's really hard to get my head around. That to me is a lot more scary than not existing.
Yeah, so because of your existence, there is experience of Leo right now speaking to me. So you are the one who is, right, ever true, ever present, and whatever you know yourself to be who you are, that is that which never comes and that which never leaves. So what's happening perhaps is you're attributing, the mind, which is just, witnessing kind of the mind, which is able to receive data and generate this world and green leaves and walls. All of that is by the presence of the mind. Who knows about that is I am. And I don't need the mind to know that I am. Because we often think, right, we need the mind to know that I am. This is our common kind of a thing, because we're so used to the mind, right? And we think, what will be like without the mind? I won't exist. So this means there's an attribution problem. I'm still attributing, right, the mind onto myself. I'm still thinking that I need the mind, I need to see things to know that I am. But it's only because I am that things are seen, that things are heard, that the head is shaking, that the experience is like this, that the experience is like that, not the other way around.
So if Atma is not attached to Leo's mind, which is true, then it's actually not really experiencing what Leo is experiencing.
In the presence of Atma, Leo's experience is known. It's just like in the presence of light, you can only see this. Why?
Yeah.
Because the light is shining in the room, right? I turn off the light, then no matter what happens to this, right, it can go through whatever conditions it wants. There's no light. No one's lighting it up. So what's lighting up Leo's entire experience is I am. The very same I am that's lighting up Andre's experience right now.
My question was, why should unwise cup want to become a wise cup?
Yeah, as we said, because the unwise cup will, keep on coming, into this world with limitations, and it will go through, this. It wants to free itself from, time-bound existence, and it will go through sickness and age, and if it gets older, it's going downhill, and it starts to have memory loss, and it gets born again, and you never know what kind of parents you're gonna have, what kind of opportunities, how many, COVIDs you're going to get more in lifetimes, and you have to get a job again. So in other words, the cup, knows that, yes, there's a human experience, and it's fine. There's nothing right or wrong about it. But, your nature is much, much vaster than just this little thing amongst many, many, many others in this world. Like one little wave. Why? Look at this. Why do you want one wave or everything, or the whole ocean?
Whole ocean.
The whole ocean. Unless the mind is still maturing, it will say, no, I'm comfortable with one wave. I've also heard this before, but the mind comes to say, look, I want the whole ocean because I am the whole ocean. I am the water, which inheres in the whole thing. So in that sense, the wave, says, I'll use my waveness to figure out the reality. This much I will do. Ashish?
So, Andre, just extending upon Leo's example. So, as Leo said, right, Leo is experiencing the screen, and the consciousness is lighting up his experience. But is consciousness just lighting up, and still it's Leo or the mind which is having that experience, but consciousness is just lighting it up, or consciousness has that experience? The consciousness inside Leo has that experience. Or
okay.
Leo within that consciousness, as though confined consciousness, has that experience. And I'm just trying to.
I think what we're doing is getting a little bit mixed up with semantics, the word experience. See, again, I'm just going to say this very simply. So there is one Atma, one self. Look at this. All of us are right now on this call. All of us are right now like this. I'm just going to not say anything for a couple of seconds. Just relax. In this moment, do I have to tell you that you exist?
No.
Do I have to tell you that any one of us are conscious right now? And this experience is taking place right now of Andre speaking to you, speaking to your body mind. Yeah, words are known to me, the self. Colors, the screen is known to me, the self. Memories of the mind are known to me, the self. Impatience or patience is known to me, the self. When is this, time going, when is this session going to end? That thought is known to me, the self. What is your point is known to me, the self. Oh, there's a little bit of pain in this body is known to me, the self. Oh, there's a doubt. That doubt is known to me, the self. It's never going to be any different. It's that simple. So whatever comes, whatever is produced by this machine called Andre, by this machine called Ashish, it just generates experience. It just generates, gears are turning. You got 2 cameras, you got 2 microphones, you got sensors on the skin picking up tactile feedback. It's just constantly receiving data. In the presence of I am, this data is known to me, the self. Suppose that you're like an actor, right? And you have you're given a role to play of, what role do we want to play? Like a beggar. Now, look at this. An actor is given a role to play as a beggar. Is there any distance between an actor and the beggar? Is there any difference? Is there any distance between them? There's no real distance, but there is no distance, but at the same time, there is a distance. Look at this. Suppose the actor, right, is given this role of a beggar and he gets so much into the role. What happens to the actor now? They are as though one and the same. The actor has now become the beggar who's sitting down. Oh, please give me, I need knowledge. I need to know who I am. Please give me this. I don't understand. Oh, help me. The actor, the self, is as though taking on the role of the seeker. Now the actor goes, oh, wait a minute. There is a role that's being played. There is a person here that's being played, that's assigned a work, assigned a duty to perform in this world. And that person, hey, that person is meant to go through experiences. That person is meant to think. That person is meant to experience pain and pleasure. That person is meant to, have, a little ouch and, oh, it's so hot. Oh, it's so cold, freezing. That person is meant to be concerned and meant to love and meant to, be a little bit, worried and meant to take care of things. But there is a presence about me, the one that I never, I'm remaining free of this beggar. The beggar has no existence without me, and I remain free of the beggar all along. As long as I recognize that cognitively, then I can still play my role as this person called your name, but I never forget there is a presence which is giving existence to this person, which is given a certain duty in this world to conduct. The moment I forget that, there is as though no difference whatsoever between the actor and the beggar. And the moment there is no distance, then all clarity is lost. All sight, all perspective is lost. Now I have lost perspective. What is my purpose in life? Because now I, as an actor, start to play the, the beggar role, and now I need, things in my life. I need to like look for people and fulfill my needs and all of this. That means I have nowhere to fall back on except the needy person who is constantly needing. That's all the person does. They just need stuff. Did you notice this? You're just born to get things in this world. Is there anything else you do in this world than to get stuff? That's all you do. Since day one, you've just been born getting stuff. Hey, mommy, cookie. Okay. Hey, mommy, dad, love. Okay. Hey, knowledge. Okay. Sleep. Okay. Waking up. Okay. It's just getting more stuff. What's getting more stuff? The beggar is getting more stuff. It's a role that is being played. All throughout, I understand there is a presence about me, which in whose presence is shining on this beggar, shining on this winner, on this king or this queen, and by my mere presence, my Sat-Chit presence, there is knowledge, there is observation of this actor, of this beggar or king or queen going through a certain time, a place, and so on. This means that the more you start to kind of lose your understanding who you are, the more things start to bother us. Small things start to turn into 10 other things. Nothing to fall back on. That means the agony, right? I start to create these huge stories now because I am a beggar. I am the king who needs to get so much for myself. So this means the wise person has a certain understanding. There is something about me that is totally free of this person, but at the same time, this person is meant to go through pleasure and pain. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. That is a fact. Why does this happen? Because we get born with ignorance, and therefore we cannot look for anything than just for more, for I'm a limited body, limited this, limited that. This is called mula avidya, primary ignorance, primary root ignorance, from which all of these subsequent ignorances come. The secondary kind of ignorance is tula avidya. That means the moment I get born thinking I'm this small person who needs for my little, satisfaction, who needs to fill myself up, what happens? Well, then I go into secondary mode of ignorances in reference to what is my life purpose. This is tula avidya. My life purpose is to please myself. It is to have more experiences in life. It is to have a roller coaster. It is for more relationship experience, for tease and dance experience, and this is all lovely things. But then life becomes all about chasing experiences, all about caught in drama of life, of experience. The whole life becomes about more experience, please. Let me modify the experience of the brain, modify the experience of the body, through dance, through music. Again, nothing wrong with it, but it becomes the secondary kind of ignorances. Whole life becomes about basically chasing for karma, a security, and being a good person. And yet the whole play of experience is taking place on the canvas of I am. Not only from your standpoint, but from everyone's standpoint. And because I'm caught up in the drama of life, of experience, I totally forget that which is the underlying base, the existence upon which the experience of life is taking place. Who am I? The existence upon which the experience of life is taking place through this body called your name. The substratum, which is free of all experiences, but in the presence of it, experiences of the person are taking place, are known to be taking place. And therefore, next week, we will see how then, this jiva, who is yet to understand who they are, how they can begin to kind of get a little bit more specific. What exactly is experiencing life? And we started out verse 13 some time ago, and we said what experiences is your physical body and your subtle body. And we will also talk about the causal body. This will be next week. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.